It began with a whisper that spread like wildfire across the internet. Joe Rogan had said something he wasn't supposed to, and the clip vanished almost as quickly as it appeared. But not before a few sharp-eared fans caught every word. Within hours, the story broke across Reddit threads, podcast forums, and gossip channels. Rogan had allegedly leaked the dark secret behind Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk. No one could believe what they heard. The man known for grilling politicians, fighters, and comedians had stepped straight into a storm that mixed tragedy, power, and betrayal. The footage was brief, only 21 seconds long, but the words were unmistakable. Rogan leaned forward into the mic, his expression dark, and said, "If people really knew what Erica's been hiding since Charlie passed, the entire movement would collapse." Then Jamie's voice cut in, "Should we edit that out?" And Rogan nodded. The screen flickered and the recording ended. That was it. But for fans, those 21 seconds opened a floodgate of speculation. What was Erica hiding? Why would Rogan of all people say that on air? And why was the episode pulled within minutes of upload? Theories spiraled overnight. Some claimed it had to do with money. Others whispered about affairs, secret recordings, and a feud that had quietly torn apart the people closest to Charlie Kirk before his death. Old photos resurfaced Erica spotted in Miami, then in DC, then vanishing from public view for months. Screenshots of private posts were shared, deleted, then reposted again. Nothing made sense, yet everything seemed to connect. By morning, fans were demanding answers. Rogan's silence only made things worse. His team refused to comment, the clip remained offline, and Erica herself disappeared from social media entirely. Even her closest friends avoided questions. That silence, that uneasy calm, made the situation feel darker. Podcasters began replaying Rogan's tone, dissecting every word, comparing his expression in that moment to other controversial interviews. One fan tweeted, "You can tell he knows something huge. He wasn't joking. His face said it all." Another wrote, "If what Rogan said is true, then everything we thought about the Kirk's public image is a lie." The energy online was electric, a mix of obsession and disbelief. People began digging into old interviews, connecting dots that maybe didn't even exist. But by then, it didn't matter. The damage was done. Erica Kirk's name was trending again. Not as a widow of a conservative icon, but as a woman hiding a mystery that Joe Rogan himself had hinted could collapse everything. And as the noise grew louder, one question burned across every comment section, every reaction video, every headline. What exactly did Joe Rogan know on? Why did he risk saying it out loud? It all started the morning after Joe Rogan's mysterious clip vanished from fans woke up to find the episode missing. But within hours, a handful of pirated recordings began to circulate in private Discord servers. The audio was grainy, voices slightly distorted, yet unmistakable. Joe's tone carried that rare mix of disbelief and frustration, the kind that only surfaced when he knew something too real, too dangerous to say on air. People kept replaying the moment, listening to every breath, every pause. And what they found in between the words was more shocking than what he actually said. He had paused right before mentioning Erica Kirk's name, and that silence, those 3 seconds of hesitation, felt heavier than any revelation. Soon the conspiracy channels went into overdrive. One of them claimed to have decoded a secret conversation from Rogan's earlier episode with Andrew Schultz, suggesting Joe had been warned weeks before about a scandal brewing around Erica. The story went that after Charlie Kirk's death, something happened. Something only a handful of people knew, and Rogan had stumbled into it while preparing a guest lineup connected to political media. He wasn't supposed to mention it, yet his conscience had slipped. People online described it as the moment the mask cracked. Others said it was the beginning of the unraveling. Meanwhile, inside the Kirk circle, things were collapsing quietly. Erica was said to be in Arizona at a private estate, refusing calls and ignoring messages from longtime family friends. One insider told a podcast host off record that Erica had received a call from a former Turning Point staffer the night before Rogan's episode aired. That call, according to him, left her trembling and in tears. The staffer allegedly warned her that something was coming and that Joe's team wasn't the only one digging. Rumors began to swirl about a hidden fund, offshore accounts, and a secret agreement signed shortly after Charlie's passing. One post claimed that Rogan's comment wasn't about personal scandal, it was about money and manipulation. Another said it had nothing to do with finances at all, but rather a cover-up involving recordings Charlie made during his final months. Those who followed the story closely started noticing odd coincidences. Deleted tweets, old podcast clips where Charlie had hinted at fighting the machine from inside, and a photo from 2 years ago showing Erica meeting someone connected to an intelligence firm. By that night, the hashtags #RoganLeak and #EricaKirkTruth were trending globally. Across the internet, reactions split in two. Half the audience defended Joe, claiming he had the right to speak if he knew something real. The other half accused him of exploiting a widow's grief for clicks. Twitter became a battlefield. One tweet read, "Joe Rogan crossed a line. She lost her husband and now he's using her pain as content." Another fired back, "If Joe hinted, there's a reason. He never speaks without evidence." In Los Angeles, producers close to Rogan's circle were scrambling. One described the atmosphere at the studio as tense and quiet. He said, "Joe hadn't spoken to anyone for hours that day." Jamie, his longtime producer, looked visibly shaken when leaving the building. Someone snapped a photo of them together outside the studio, Joe in a dark hoodie. Head down, Jamie whispering something into his ear. That photo went viral within minutes. Users captioned it, "The look of a man who said too much." The tension only deepened when a former guest, comedian Tim Dillon, hinted in a livestream that Joe didn't make that story up. Tim's words poured fuel on an already burning fire. "The thing people don't get," he said, "is that Joe hears things before anyone else, sometimes from people with clearance, sometimes from insiders, and sometimes he's told to stay quiet." Fans clipped that statement and replayed it endlessly. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know who had warned Joe Rogan to stay quiet, and why had he spoken anyway. The following day, Rogan's fans flooded his official Instagram with demands for clarity. No response came, but something strange happened instead. At exactly 11:17 p.m., a cryptic story appeared on his account. A black screen with only one sentence written in white text, "Sometimes the truth isn't meant to be told." Within 10 minutes, it was deleted. Screenshots were everywhere. The message sparked a new wave of theories that Joe had been threatened or silenced. Some said Spotify forced him to remove the episode to protect legal interests. Others went further, claiming he had been visited by people tied to the Kirk family's political donors. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, Erica's world was reportedly collapsing. Insiders described her as paranoid and withdrawn. A close family acquaintance claimed she had moved into a friend's guest house under a false name. She doesn't trust anyone, the source said. She thinks every phone call is being recorded. There were whispers that she had destroyed several hard drives and erased old emails. Connected to Charlie's private foundation, someone even claimed to have heard her shouting over the phone, saying, "He promised they'd never find it," though no one knew what it was. 3 days later, another layer of the story broke. A small channel on Rumble released what it called the missing segment of Rogan's podcast. The video quality was poor, but the words were clearer this time. Rogan could be heard saying, "When you're sitting across from people who build entire movements on illusion, it's hard to stay quiet." Charlie wasn't as naive as people think. That single sentence changed everything. What did he mean by illusion? And why mention Charlie's awareness? People began dissecting the word illusion, connecting it to rumors of staged campaigns and fake charity appearances. Screenshots of documents allegedly tied to Erica's signature began to circulate. By then, the narrative had spiraled out of control. Big networks stayed silent, but independent creators built full documentaries overnight, each claiming to have the real story. One focused on Erica's sudden withdrawal from media life, another on Charlie's strange final months. A journalist even flew to Texas to interview a man who claimed to have worked security at one of the Kirk family's events. He described seeing something tense between Charlie and Erica that evening. Something off about the way they avoided eye contact. As all of this unfolded, Joe Rogan stayed completely silent. No apology, no clarification, nothing. The silence only deepened the mystery, and the internet began treating him less like a commentator and more like a whistleblower. A TikTok video comparing his expression before and after the deleted episode went viral, racking up millions of views. People said his eyes looked different, like a man who knew he'd opened a door he couldn't close again. But the real twist came late that week when a former Turning Point USA intern posted an anonymous message online. It read, "Rogan isn't lying. I saw the file myself. If it ever comes out, it'll destroy more than reputations." Within hours, the account disappeared, but screenshots flooded every social platform. Reddit threads exploded. Who was this intern? What file were they referring to? And why did they vanish immediately after posting? That was when fans began turning their suspicion toward Erica's silence itself. Every time someone tried to reach her for comment, they were met with vague responses from her publicist if they got an answer at all. Some fans described her absence as guilt, others as fear. A small but growing group of people started saying that Rogan wasn't the villain in this story, he was the messenger. They argued that his accidental leak had forced open a truth too dangerous for mainstream media to touch. Meanwhile, inside Rogan's team, tension reached its peak. Jamie reportedly begged Joe to stay off the mic for a few days. "You don't understand what's happening, man," he was overheard saying. "This isn't about a podcast anymore." Joe's only reply was cold and final. "They already know I know." The next morning, an unmarked envelope appeared at the studio. The guard who received it said it had no sender's name, just Joe's initials scrawled in red marker. When Joe opened it, inside was a single photograph, a blurred image of him leaving the studio 3 nights before, followed by a note that read, "Stop digging or you'll bury yourself." No one outside the inner circle knew about that letter, but word still got out. And once it did, fans were convinced something much darker was unfolding than anyone could have imagined. As speculation grew, the world's eyes shifted entirely toward Erica Kirk. What was she hiding that could make powerful people send threats? What connection did her late husband have to something so secret that even Joe Rogan, known for confronting the world's most controversial figures, was warned to stay silent? Fans demanded answers, but all they got were more questions on with each passing hour. Those questions only got louder. 2 days after the envelope incident, the atmosphere around Joe Rogan's studio grew heavier, like the air before a storm. Security was tightened, visitors were screened, and even regular crew members noticed unmarked cars parked near the lot. Jamie looked exhausted, the kind of exhaustion that comes not from work, but from fear. The rumor among the staff was that someone had tried to hack into the studio's private cloud system, targeting archived recordings that were never meant to air. By the time the breach was discovered, 2 files had already been copied. No one knew what was stolen, but Joe did. He walked in that morning with a look that made everyone go quiet. "They've got it," he said simply, setting his phone face down on the table. No one asked what it was. Meanwhile, Erica Kirk resurfaced for the first time in nearly a week, appearing briefly outside a hotel in Miami. She looked frail and pale, dressed in oversized sunglasses and a plain gray sweatshirt. Paparazzi shouted her name, but she didn't answer. When one of them yelled, "Erica, is it true what Joe Rogan said?" she froze for a second, just one, and then got into her car without a word. The silence said everything. The video spread fast, and people claimed to see tears in her eyes just before the door shut. Online forums exploded again. "She's hiding guilt," one commenter wrote. Another replied, "No, she's scared for her life." The divide deepened, and the story transformed from scandal to mystery. Later that night, a podcast producer from a rival show leaked a voice note, allegedly recorded during a private call between Joe and an unnamed source. The voice on the recording whispered, "They warned you once. Don't let them warn you twice. She knows who's behind it." The message was chilling, and though no proof surfaced to confirm it was real, the internet decided it was. Every soundbite became evidence. Every silence became conspiracy. People began to theorize that Joe had stumbled upon something buried deep in operation. Maybe even political blackmail, and Erica had been a part of it without meaning to. Inside her circle, panic spread fast. A friend close to the Kirks gave an anonymous interview saying Erica had become unrecognizable. She was barely eating, sleeping in short bursts, and constantly checking her phone. "She's living in fear," the friend said. "She keeps saying Joe didn't lie, but he didn't tell the whole truth either." That statement alone reignited the chaos. If Joe didn't tell the whole truth, what was he leaving out? Meanwhile, clips from Joe's older episodes started trending again, especially one from years back where he discussed how truth gets buried when too many people profit from the lie. Fans now quoted that line like prophecy. They said this wasn't just another controversy, it was a war of information. Joe had opened a door that powerful people wanted shut, and Erica was the key. The tension escalated when Joe received a second warning, this time not a letter, but a package delivered straight to his Texas home. Inside was a single USB drive and a note that read, "This is what he left behind." Joe hesitated for nearly a day before plugging it in. According to someone close to him, what he saw on that drive left him shaken. "He just stared at the screen," the source said. After 5 minutes, he turned it off and said, "I can't touch this." Whatever the footage showed, Joe refused to describe it publicly. But the very next day, he contacted his legal team and ordered extra protection for his family. News outlets tried to reach out for comment, but Spotify's spokesperson released a single, brief statement. Episode 2019 was removed for editorial review. That was it. No mention of threats, no mention of Erica Kirk, no mention of the USB, but the vagueness of the message only fueled the drama. Independent creators filled the silence, inventing timelines, showing blurry screenshots, and promising leaked truths. One YouTube video titled "The Erica Tapes" got over 3 million views in 24 hours. Claiming the USB contained private recordings between Erica and Charlie from the final weeks of his life. Whether the claim was real or not didn't matter anymore. The internet had chosen to believe it. Joe's podcast fans noticed subtle changes in him after that. His laugh wasn't as loud, his tone carried an edge of caution, and he avoided mentioning politics altogether. One longtime viewer wrote, "You can tell he's holding something in. His energy shifted." Another said, "That's not fear, it's guilt." The speculation reached absurd levels when someone slowed down his latest episode and claimed to hear faint static sounds in the background, suggesting someone was monitoring the broadcast. Paranoia was spreading like wildfire, and Joe Rogan had become both the victim and the villain in his own story. But then, just when everyone thought the scandal had reached its peak, another unexpected name entered the mix. A former assistant to Charlie Kirk came forward anonymously, claiming that Charlie had kept a hidden diary. It wasn't about politics, the assistant said. It was about betrayal. According to them, Charlie had discovered something devastating about someone close to him before his death. And that revelation was what set off the chain of events leading to Joe's outburst. When asked if that person was Erica, the assistant refused to answer directly. "All I can say," they murmured, "is that he died knowing more than anyone will ever admit." As the statement went viral, people started connecting it to Joe's leaked quote, "If people knew what Erica's been hiding, the entire movement would collapse." Suddenly, the two stories fit together too perfectly. What if Charlie's discovery, recorded in his diary, was the secret Joe hinted at? And if so, who had shown it to him? Speculation turned feverish. Screenshots surfaced claiming the diary had been sold privately after Charlie's death. Rumors spread that its pages contained recordings of private conversations between major donors, media figures, and even names tied to Washington. Fans began saying the word cover-up in all caps, as if shouting would make it true. Amid the chaos, Erica broke her silence in a brief video posted to a small private account. It lasted less than 30 seconds. Sitting in dim light, her voice shaking, she said, Dim light, her voice shaking, she said, "I never wanted any of this to go public. I just want the truth to rest with him." Then the video cut off abruptly. No explanation, no context. But that short clip became the most replayed video of the week. Her eyes looked haunted. Her voice sounded desperate. And her message only deepened the mystery. Was she protecting Charlie's legacy? Or protecting herself? The emotional weight of the story grew unbearable for those following it. Fan pages turned into war zones. One group defended Erica as a grieving widow unfairly targeted by a reckless podcaster. Another saw her as the guardian of a dangerous secret that Joe had almost exposed. Both sides produced evidence, but the line between fact and fabrication had already vanished. What mattered now wasn't truth, it was who could make their version of it louder. Joe Rogan's team went into lockdown. His next few scheduled guests quietly canceled, citing personal reasons. One insider described the studio atmosphere as like working in a haunted house. Joe, meanwhile, began making late-night calls to people he hadn't spoken to in years, asking strange questions about digital trails and offshore backups. According to one friend, he sounded restless, paranoid, and strangely determined. "He told me he couldn't let it end this way," the friend said. "He said too many people already know." By that point, the scandal had stretched beyond gossip, had become a global phenomenon. Even mainstream news outlets, once hesitant to touch it, began reporting on the Rogan-Kirk mystery. Every article quoted anonymous insiders, each version contradicting the last. But the intrigue only grew. Spotify's shares briefly dipped, legal teams exchanged quiet letters, and powerful people started making calls behind closed doors. In the midst of it all, Joe disappeared from public view for nearly a week. No new episodes, no sightings, nothing. Fans feared the worst. Then, on the 7th night, a new message appeared on his podcast feed. No audio, just text. It read, "Some stories aren't over. They're just waiting for the next chapter." The moment it appeared, every screen lit up with speculation. Was Joe planning to release the truth himself? Was the USB footage real? And if it was, why had he gone silent after seeing it? Everyone wanted answers, but none were coming. What no one realized, though, was that the silence wasn't the end of the story, it was only the pause before the next explosion. 3 nights later, the silence finally cracked. At exactly 2:03 a.m., a mysterious 2-minute audio clip surfaced online under the title Joe's Last Conversation. It was uploaded to a small file-sharing site, then instantly mirrored across dozens of platforms before moderators could remove it. The voice on the recording was unmistakably Joe Rogan's low tense, almost whispering. "They think I'll stop talking," he said, his tone measured but heavy. But when the truth's this big, silence becomes guilt. Fans froze. Those words spread faster than anything before. By sunrise, hashtags like #Rogan recording and #Erica file were trending across every social platform. And once again, the world's attention turned toward Erica Kirk. Her lawyers were the first to respond, issuing a statement denying any and all defamatory claims currently circulating in digital spaces. But the denial came too late. Screenshots of the statement only fueled more speculation. One popular tweet read, "You only deny what's half true." By noon, commentary videos had flooded YouTube, each dissecting Joe's tone, the pacing of his breath, and even background noises in the leaked clip. One analyst claimed you could hear keyboard tapping, suggesting he was writing an email while speaking. Others insisted they heard a woman's faint voice saying, "Stop." Whether real or imagined, these tiny details became the foundation of an even larger theory that Rogan wasn't alone when he recorded the message. By afternoon, an unverified Telegram channel published what it claimed were messages from Joe to a confidential source named R. The texts read, "The USB was only half the story. She's been working with them since 2020. He found out too late." No one knew who R was, but people online speculated everything from a whistleblower to one of Joe's closest friends. By that night, the messages had been viewed over 10 million times. While the internet raged, Erica had retreated again, this time reportedly to a private estate in Tennessee. A neighbor later told a local news outlet that black vans had been parked outside the property for days. "They looked like security," he said, "but not the normal kind." The quote went viral, and soon fans were convinced the widow was under protection either from outsiders or from something within her own circle. Her silence became the loudest noise online. Even her old friends began distancing themselves, unfollowing her social media accounts in quiet waves. Inside Rogan's world, things were spiraling. Several former guests came forward, each claiming to have noticed Joe acting differently weeks before the scandal broke. One described him as haunted. Another said he kept mentioning a file that changes everything. Tim Dillon hinted again on his own show that Joe's problem wasn't the secret itself, but the people who owned it. He refused to elaborate, only adding, "Sometimes the truth has shareholders." The quote became an instant meme, but also deepened the mystery. By midweek, a short video leaked from Rogan's studio security camera. It showed him sitting alone late at night, staring at the computer screen for almost 15 minutes straight. At one point, he lifted his head and said quietly, "He warned her." That was all. No context, no continuation. Just those 3 words. The footage was eerie, the lighting dim, the silence unbearable. Millions replayed the clip, trying to light read or find clues in his expression. Theories exploded. Some said he referred to Charlie Kirk. Others believed it pointed to someone entirely different, a figure still alive and powerful. Days later, a new twist arrived. A journalist known for covering digital leaks released what she called the partial transcript from Charlie's alleged diary. The document, though heavily redacted, included one chilling entry dated weeks before his death. She said it wasn't her choice. "I told her if the deal goes through, I'm out. They'll silence us both if we talk." The moment those words hit the internet, chaos erupted. Commentators claimed this proved Rogan's claim there was indeed a cover-up, a secret deal that Charlie wanted out of. But what was the deal? And who were they? Spotify issued another short statement, saying the company had no involvement or knowledge of personal matters discussed outside of its platform. It did nothing to calm the storm. Even late-night hosts began joking about the scandal, turning it into mainstream entertainment. Every joke, every headline kept the story alive. Rogan, however, remained silent. Then, out of nowhere, a familiar face appeared on live television. One of Charlie Kirk's former business associates, a man named Evan Brooks, gave an interview that changed everything again. "Joe didn't lie," he said bluntly. "He just didn't tell the whole story. Charlie left something behind, something Erica tried to destroy." When pressed for details, Evan refused to answer, but he added, "There's a reason Joe can't sleep at night, and there's a reason Erica can't speak." That single interview reignited the frenzy. People flooded Evan's social accounts, begging for proof, while others accused him of chasing clout. Yet the damage was irreversible. Now there were 3 central figures: Joe, Erica, and the shadow of Charlie himself, locked in a triangle of secrets, grief, and suspicion. As the world obsessed, someone quietly posted a new document to the dark web. It was labeled the Eden Files. Within hours, screenshots leaked to Twitter showing transactions, cryptic emails, and one curious message allegedly sent from an account belonging to Erica months after Charlie's death. It read, "Delete everything after May." No one could confirm its authenticity, but the phrase "delete everything after May" became a cultural phenomenon overnight. People printed it on t-shirts, used it as hashtags, even turned it into song lyrics. But behind the viral noise, there was a real undercurrent of fear. Journalists who tried to investigate the files reported their accounts being hacked. One claimed she received an anonymous voicemail saying, "You're looking in the wrong place." Podcasters who discussed the scandal found their videos suddenly demonetized or removed without warning. The sense of an invisible hand grew stronger, and fans started calling the entire situation the erased truth. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan reappeared, quietly recording a new episode not published, but privately circulated among a few close friends. One of them later described it as the most emotional thing he's ever done. Joe allegedly broke down midway, his voice cracking as he said, "I thought I was helping. I thought exposing the lie would bring peace. But now people are scared and she's paying for it." That admission, though never officially released, became public through leaks, confirming what many suspected. Joe regretted everything. Erica, on the other hand, was seen again, this time leaving a courthouse in Nashville, escorted by two unidentified men. No one knew what case she was attending, and court records showed nothing filed under her name. A bystander captured a brief video of her walking fast, face hidden under a scarf. One reporter called out, "Erica, is there a message you want to send to Joe Rogan?" She paused just long enough to whisper, "Tell him to stop before it's too late." The clip went viral within minutes. Those words became the new heartbeat of the story, "before it's too late." Commentators argued over what she meant. Too late for what? His safety? Her secret? Or something even bigger? Fans now began speculating that a full-scale investigation might already be underway behind the scenes, that powerful names were involved, and that Joe's leak had accidentally exposed something political, something global. Theories ranged from money laundering to data trafficking. No one knew the truth, but everyone wanted to believe theirs was the closest version. Through it all, the emotional toll on both sides became apparent. Joe looked weary in every candid sighting, eyes darker, movements slower. People close to him said he had stopped checking his phone at night, scared of what new threat might arrive. Erica, once known for her grace and confidence, was now a ghost in her own story. Her image plastered everywhere, yet her voice nowhere to be heard. The tragedy of it all was undeniable. Two people bound by one man's memory, destroyed by a secret neither could fully reveal. And still, the question remained the same, one that started it all: what did Joe Rogan actually see on that USB drive? No one knew, but whispers hinted at something too human, too raw, to share publicly. Maybe it wasn't political. Maybe it was personal. Maybe what he saw wasn't evidence of corruption or betrayal, but a confession, one that would break not only Erica's image, but her heart. Whatever it was, the truth was now a living thing, impossible to bury, and the world waited in restless silence for Joe's next move. Joe stared across the dimly lit studio, his hands gripping the table as if the truth itself might slip through his fingers. The air felt thick, not just with tension, but with something darker, something unsaid. His guest that night, a man who claimed to have worked behind the curtains of Charlie Kirk's media empire, shifted uneasily in his seat. The camera light flickered red. They were live. The world was listening. "You don't understand," the guest whispered, glancing at Joe nervously. "This goes way deeper than politics. Charlie's widow, she wasn't just grieving, she was managing something. Something secret." Joe leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "What kind of secret?" he asked slowly, the way he always did when he sensed a story wasn't finished. "It's not about money," the man said, voice trembling. "It's about what she found after Charlie's death. Files, private messages, recordings that could ruin careers." Joe froze for a moment, staring at him as if measuring the weight of those words. "Recordings?" he repeated. The guest nodded. "And not just of Charlie. Of people in Washington, donors, influencers, people she thought were his friends." A long silence followed. Joe's jaw tightened. He had heard rumors, of course everyone had, but hearing it confirmed sent a chill through him. The guest continued, "She told a few people about it, trusted the wrong one, and now she's being followed. Her house was broken into twice. Police found nothing. She told me she doesn't even sleep in the same room 2 nights in a row." Joe glanced toward the control booth. The producers looked uneasy, debating whether to cut the feed. He gave them a subtle shake of the head. This was the kind of story that made headlines. "So, you're saying Charlie Kirk's widow might be in danger because of something her husband left behind?" The man nodded gravely. "It's worse. She's not the only one who knows now. There's another copy of the recordings. And Joe, people are willing to kill for it." The studio went silent. Even the hum of the lights seemed too dim. Joe exhaled sharply and leaned back. "We're talking about powerful names?" he asked, lowering his voice. "The kind you don't say out loud," the man replied. "I can't stay long. I've already said too much." Before Joe could ask another question, the guest removed his mic, stood up, and walked out of the studio without looking back. When the door closed, Joe sat still for a full minute. Then he turned to the camera, his voice calm but heavy. This might be bigger than I thought," he said quietly. Fans watching the stream flooded the chat with messages. What did he mean by recordings? Is Erica Kirk in trouble? What's going on? Joe ended the segment abruptly, promising to look deeper into what had just been said. The next morning, headlines exploded across social media. Joe Rogan guest hints at government-level cover-up involving Erica Kirk. Millions of people shared clips of the moment the guest walked off the set. Speculation spread like wildfire. Was it a setup? Was Joe silenced? And where was Erica? By noon, paparazzi were stationed outside her gated home in Tennessee. Her neighbors told reporters they hadn't seen her for days. A few claimed she had been spotted at a private airport, boarding a small jet with no listed destination. One neighbor, an elderly woman named Marilyn, told a local channel she looked terrified, like she was running from someone, not going on a trip. Joe's phone wouldn't stop ringing. His producer, Jason, was pacing the corridor outside the studio. "We've got the networks calling," he said. "Half of them want to rebroadcast the interview. The other half want to accuse us of spreading conspiracy theories." Joe rubbed his temples. "It's not a conspiracy if it's true," he muttered. "I just need to know if she's safe." That night, Joe received an encrypted email. No sender, no subject. Just a link. Against his better judgment, he clicked it. A black screen opened. Then a single video clip played grainy footage from a hidden camera. It showed Charlie Kirk sitting at a desk speaking to someone off camera. His voice was calm but urgent. "If anything happens to me," Charlie said, "make sure she finds the blue folder. It's the only proof." Joe paused the video. Blue folder. What was in it? Who was she? Erica or someone else? He replayed the clip again and again, listening for background sounds. Anything that could identify where it was filmed? A faint hum. Maybe a refrigerator, maybe a server. And then, in the corner of the frame, for less than a second, a reflection of a woman's hand setting down a glass of water. He enlarged the frame. A wedding ring? Erica's ring. The realization hit him hard. She had been there. She had recorded it, and that meant she had the blue folder. By morning, Joe had made up his mind. He was going to find her. He reached out to a few trusted friends, journalists, security contacts, people who owed him favors. Every one of them told him the same thing. "Stay out of it, Joe. This isn't your fight." But he couldn't let it go. Something about the desperation in that video, the way Charlie spoke, felt like a warning meant for everyone. As he prepared to leave for Tennessee, he received another message, this time from an anonymous number. "Stop looking for her. Some secrets are buried for a reason." He stared at it for a long time, then deleted it. His flight landed just after midnight. He rented a car under a false name and drove to Franklin, a quiet town lined with oak trees and old houses. Erica's estate sat on a hill, its lights dimmed, the gate half open. Joe parked down the road and approached on foot. Every instinct told him to turn back, but curiosity, the same instinct that made him who he was, pulled him forward. The front door was unlocked. Inside the house smelled faintly of perfume and dust. Half-drunk cups of coffee sat abandoned on the counter. There was a note on the table. "If you're reading this, you already know too much." Joe's pulse quickened. He turned it over. "On, know too much." Joe's pulse quickened. He turned it over. "On." The back, written in small letters, were the words, "Blue folder, basement safe." He moved quickly, checking every door until he found the staircase leading down. The basement was cold, lined with boxes and old furniture. In the corner, a steel safe sat half open, as if someone had left in a hurry. Inside was a blue leather folder. He opened it carefully and what he saw inside made his stomach drop. Photographs, documents, bank transfers, private memos with letterheads from corporations, political committees, and even religious organizations. It was all their proof of something that had been carefully hidden. At the bottom, a flash drive labeled Truth. Joe slipped it into his pocket. But before he could leave, headlights swept across the windows upstairs. A car had pulled into the driveway. Voices. Men's voices. Joe froze. He slipped behind a column, heart pounding. Footsteps echoed on the wooden floor above. "Check the basement," one said. Joe backed into the shadows, clutching the flash drive like a lifeline. The door creaked open and a beam of light swept across the stairs. He held his breath as two figures descended slowly, their faces hidden beneath baseball caps. One of them whispered, "If she told Rogan, he's next." Joe's mind raced. He had seconds to decide. He darted toward a side door, praying it wasn't locked. It opened with a groan, and he slipped out into the night, running through the tall grass toward the trees. Behind him, a shout there, "He's got it," followed by the sound of footsteps. The night swallowed him whole, and as he disappeared into the woods, clutching the blue folder, one thing became clear. Whatever Charlie Kirk had uncovered before his death was not just a scandal, it was a war. Joe didn't stop running until his lungs burned. The forest was silent except for the rhythm of his own breath and the distant hum of a car engine fading into the night. He leaned against a tree, the flash drive still clenched in his hand, his heart pounding with the weight of everything he had just seen. Somewhere behind him, the men searching the property would soon realize he was gone. He didn't know who they were, but their precision, their silence, the way they moved it wasn't random. They weren't thieves, they were trained. This wasn't about Erica anymore. It was about silencing anyone who got too close. He pulled his phone from his pocket, but there was no signal. He was deep in the woods, miles from the nearest main road. He crouched, thinking quickly. If the contents of the flash drive were real, they couldn't stay in one place for long. He needed to see what was inside, but not here. Not where anyone could track him. He waited until dawn before moving again, following the faint orange line of sunrise toward the highway. When he finally reached a gas station, his clothes were soaked with dew, his face streaked with dirt and exhaustion. He bought a prepaid phone, called Jason, and said only 3 words, I've got it. Jason's voice was tense. Where are you? Joe hesitated. Somewhere safe. For now. I need a laptop and a secure line. Jason didn't ask questions. He just said, I'll send someone. Stay low. 2 hours later, Joe sat in a small motel outside Nashville. The curtains were drawn tight, the door locked. He plugged the flash drive into his laptop and waited. A single folder appeared on the screen. Inside it, dozens of video files labeled by dates and initials. He clicked one at random. The video was blurry, filmed from a hidden angle inside what looked like a private office. Charlie Kirk was there, arguing with someone off camera. You told me it was handled, Charlie said, slamming his fist on the desk. You promised this wouldn't touch her. The other voice was low, calm, but chilling. You were never supposed to record it, Charlie. Now you've made her a liability. Joe froze her. They were talking about Erica. He clicked another file. This time, it showed Erica herself, sitting in front of the same desk, tears in her eyes. I can't do this anymore, she said softly. He warned me about all of you, but I didn't believe him. Someone responded sharply. Then you should have destroyed the folder. She shook her head. It's not yours to destroy. The clip ended abruptly. Joe sat there, staring at the screen, his hands trembling. Every video told a piece of a larger story, deals made in secret. Political money laundering, the kind of power games that never reached the surface. Charlie had uncovered it all, recorded it, and trusted his wife to protect it. And now, she was missing. Joe knew he couldn't keep this hidden, but he also couldn't go to the police. He needed proof that what he had was real. He called Jason again. I need you to trace where these videos were uploaded from, he said. Maybe we can find her. Jason hesitated. Joe, there's something you need to know. The guest from your show, the one who walked out, he's gone. No one's seen him since last night. Joe's grip tightened around the phone. What do you mean gone? Disappeared. His car's still at his apartment. Door left open, lights on. Joe fell silent. The air in the motel room felt colder suddenly. They're cleaning up, he said quietly. They're erasing every link to the truth. That night, Joe decided to upload part of the evidence to a hidden server. Not to the public, not yet, but to a few trusted journalists he knew abroad. People who couldn't be silenced easily. But before he could finish encrypting the files, the motel power cut out. Complete darkness. His pulse quickened. He reached for his phone. No signal again. A shadow moved outside the window. Then another. He grabbed the flash drive and slipped it into his shoe, just in case. Moments later, the door burst open. Two men stormed in. One grabbed Joe by the collar, the other pointed a flashlight directly in his face. Where is it? The taller one demanded. Joe didn't answer. The man punched him hard across the jaw. Where is it? He repeated. Joe spat blood, shaking his head. I don't know what you're talking about. They tore through the room, flipping the mattress, ripping open drawers, searching everything. One of them found the laptop. Here, he said, holding it up. He was uploading. Joe's heart sank. They pulled the plug, yanked the hard drive out, and smashed it against the floor. If you ever speak about what you saw, the taller one said, leaning close, you won't make it to your next episode. They left him on the floor, bruised and bleeding. For a while, he just lay there listening to the sound of their car fading away. Then, slowly, he sat up, wincing in pain. His laptop was gone, but the flash drive, his only copy, was still in his shoe. He packed what little he had left and left the motel before sunrise. He couldn't risk staying anywhere traceable. Every hotel, every airport, every camera could be watching. He drove for hours without stopping, his mind racing with images of Erica's face, Charlie's warning, the men's voices. None of it made sense, and somehow it all did. By the second night, he reached an abandoned cabin deep in the mountains of North Carolina. It had no power, no internet, but that was the point. He lit a candle and pulled out the flash drive, staring at it like it held the weight of the world. He thought about Erica, about what she must have gone through. Her silence wasn't cowardice, was survival. She had vanished not because she was guilty, but because she knew what would happen if the truth came out. Joe whispered to himself, she's still alive. She has to be. Then, in the faint glow of the candle, he noticed something else on the flash drive, a text file titled, For Joe. His breath caught. He double-clicked it. The note read, if you're reading this, you found what they wanted buried. I trust you'll know what to do. Don't look for me. Just finish what Charlie started. Joe leaned back, stunned. She knew he'd find it. She had planned it all. The interview, the guest, the leak hit, wasn't random. She had set the entire thing in motion. He looked out the window at the dark forest. For the first time in days, he didn't feel fear. He felt resolve. Whatever danger lay ahead, he knew one thing. Now this. One thing. Now this. Wasn't just a scandal, it was a legacy. Charlie had died protecting the truth, and Erica had risked everything to pass it on. Joe stood, pocketed the flash drive, and whispered, you trusted me. I won't let it die. Miles away, in a city that never slept, a man in a tailored suit watched a monitor displaying a live satellite feed. Joe's car was highlighted in red. "He's moving again," an agent said behind him. The man smirked. "Let him. Sometimes the best way to catch the truth is to let it think it's free." As dawn broke over the horizon, Joe's voice played softly in his head. The one he used to end every show. The truth isn't what they tell you, it's what they hide. And now, he was about to prove it. The days that followed blurred into one another. Joe barely slept, barely ate. His world had narrowed down to a single purpose: releasing the truth without getting caught. Every time he opened his laptop, he half expected a knock at the door or a message warning him to stop. But silence surrounded him. No calls, no threats, nothing. It was as if the storm had paused, waiting to see what he would do next. He spent hours copying, encrypting, and scattering pieces of the flash drive across multiple servers. Journalists, whistleblowers, and even anonymous data groups started receiving fragments of the files. No one knew where they came from. They only knew they were real. Video after video began surfacing online, exposing years of hidden dealings between media executives, politicians, and religious foundations. The internet exploded. Hashtags trended overnight. People called it the Kirk conspiracy, the Widow files, the Rogan leak. Joe sat quietly in his studio one last time before going live. His voice was calm, but his eyes betrayed the fatigue of a man who had seen too much. "This is not about politics," he said slowly. "It's about truth. It's about how far people will go to protect their version of reality. Charlie Kirk saw it. Erica Kirk lived it. And now, you've seen it too." He paused for a moment, breathing deeply, as if gathering the strength to finish. "What happens next isn't up to me. It's up to you." Fans filled the comment section faster than the moderators could keep up. Is he safe? Where's Erica? Will there be more? Some people believed him. Others called it a hoax. But the ones who watched closely, the ones who noticed the tremor in his voice, the bruises fading from his jaw, knew this wasn't an act. Joe ended the stream abruptly, leaving the world in suspense. Within hours, news anchors across the country debated whether to air the leaked videos. Legal teams scrambled to issue statements. But it was too late. The truth was out. Copied and backed up thousands of times across the internet, could never be erased again. Somewhere far away, under a different name, Erica Kirk watched the chaos unfold from a quiet cafe. Her hair was darker now, her eyes hidden behind sunglasses. She smiled faintly as she scrolled through the headlines. "You did it, Joe," she whispered. "You actually did it?" A waitress stopped by her table. "You look familiar," the woman said kindly. Erica shook her head. "I get that a lot." She left a tip and walked out before anyone could ask more questions. As she disappeared into the crowd, her phone buzzed once, an unknown number. One message: "It's done." She smiled again and turned off the phone for good. Joe, on the other hand, went silent after the broadcast. No one saw him for weeks. Rumors spread. Some said he fled the country. Others claimed he was being protected by private security. His studio lights stayed off the microphone untouched. But then, one night, without warning, a single post appeared on his official channel. It was only 2 words: "Truth survives." And it did. The fallout from the files shook institutions for months. Investigations opened, resignations followed, and people who had seemed untouchable were suddenly forced to answer questions they had avoided for years. Joe's name became a symbol of defiance, a reminder that one voice could still challenge power if it refused to back down. Yet, behind all the chaos, one mystery remained: where was Erica Kirk? No one could confirm her location. Her assets were frozen. Her public appearances vanished. And yet whispers continued that she had started a new life, somewhere quiet, somewhere where no one called her by that name. Fans online still post theories every day. Was she the real mastermind? Did she and Joe plan everything from the start? Did she escape with the rest of the evidence? No one really knows. And maybe that's the point. As Joe once said on his show, the truth doesn't end, just changes hands. And now, it's in yours. You've followed every twist, every betrayal, every secret that was never meant to surface. And now you have to decide what you believe. Do you think Erica Kirk was protecting her husband's legacy or covering her own? Was Joe Rogan exposing corruption or being used by something even bigger? Whatever your answer is, one thing's clear. This story isn't over. Somewhere out there, the rest of those files still exist, waiting to be found. Waiting to reveal what the world still refuses to see. If you want the next part of this investigation, if you want to know what really happened to Erica, what was on the missing videos, and who was behind the cover-up, then make sure you stay here, because we're just getting started. Hit that like button right now if you believe the truth should never stay buried. Comment below and tell us what you think really happened between Joe, Erica, and the people chasing them. Was it revenge? Was it loyalty? Or was it something darker that none of us have realized yet? And don't forget to subscribe, because what comes next will change everything you thought you knew about Charlie Kirk's legacy. Joe Rogan's silence and the secret that one widow risked everything to protect. This story began with a single leak, but the final revelation might rewrite everything. So stay tuned, stay curious, and remember what Joe said. The truth isn't what they tell you, it's what they hide. You've been watching the full breakdown of Joe Rogan Leaks, the dark secret behind Charlie Kirk's widow. The next episode will expose what's inside the missing recordings and why some people still want them erased forever. Until then, keep your eyes open. The story isn't finished, it's only just begun. The story isn't finished, it's only just begun.